Hey everybody, I wanted to make a quick video for those who are looking to start a podcast, or maybe you have a podcast already, you're just out on YouTube, YouTubing around and just watching videos. I wanted to show you guys my setup. My setup isn't the best setup, it's not perfect, but if you watch my show and listen to our podcast, that's YTKS, the Yak Tribe Kayak Show, and even Raising Entrepreneurs, that's with my wife and my sons, I'm gonna show you guys the setup that gets that quality. I'm not saying it's the best out there, but I'm showing you my setup that gets you that finished product. And so first I wanted to talk about the fact that if you want to do a podcast, you should just go ahead and do it. And if you have to use your cell phone as the camera and use another cell phone as the voice recorder, do it. And if you have to find a cheap free editing program, do it. It just matters that you actually start doing it so you can see if you even like doing it, to see if you even want to invest in the equipment to do it. And so luckily for me, I didn't have to put in all the money at once, because over the years of just doing film and video, I kind of had some of these things, but I will show you what I'm using now. And so let me just start off by saying, depending on where I'm at or the vlog I'm doing, I use my cell phone a lot of the times as the video source. The iPhones, they can record in 60 frames per second. They can record in 4K, obviously 1080p. And so that is a great source of video. If you just say, I don't have a DSLR, well, I don't even really like using my DSLR, to be honest with you. But right now in the studio, I am using my DSLR because I do use my cell phone to take calls in. Now, let me talk about that real quick. If you want to do a live podcast, this setup isn't necessarily, you can use the same equipment, but it's not geared. I'm not using a software to take in live calls and stuff like that. I don't want to do a live podcast because I want to do everything in production, and then in post-production, manipulate and add video on top of my YouTube show, and then, work on audio. And I want it to be super clear and all that kind of stuff. And so my podcast setup is not meant to be live. It can be live, but then you have to use software. So let me go ahead and flip this camera around and show you guys some stuff. So the first thing that you want to be mindful of when doing a podcast, or especially if it's a show like on YouTube, your background. What's the background look like? This is actually my church office, and we do our church announcements here. So I use it as a double for YTKS, but I do podcasts and shows in my house and outside and things like that. And so just be mindful of your background. And if you are going to be in a room and not have natural and good lighting, you're going to want to look into some lights. And so let me flip on the lights here. There's my wife. And hi. Hi. So these are GVM's Great Video Maker lights. You can mess with the temperature right here, and you can mess with the how bright or dim it is. So you can make the light colder or warmer. So right now I have it set pretty warm at 28 with my skin complexion. A little bit of a warmer color looks better. The camera I'm using for the podcast, and I keep saying podcast, but it's really a show. So the podcast, I just export the audio and upload that to Spotify and SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts. But this is an entire show, so video comes with it. I am just using a very simple camera. This is a EOS Rebel T5i. I think you can pick these up for a few $100. This camera is like, I don't know, 500, or sorry, how old is this camera, like 5 years? This camera's got to be like 5 years old. This I'm not using, but I am using, but it's not necessary. We use that to record our video announcements. But when I do shoot my podcast, I do keep it on as just a backup audio source. And so that's the camera situation. Let's move over to the actual good stuff on how we capture sound and make it sound super clear. So I have two of these mics. This is a Sennheiser E835. I think there's an E835i or S maybe, but I have this version, the E835. It's going to run you about $100. This is a good microphone. It can take a good beating. You can drop it. It's a pretty durable mic, and does pretty well. The sound is super clear. So I go ahead and take my mic and I run a XLR cable on over, and it gets plugged in to my Tascam. This is a Tascam DR40. Super simple. These things run you a few $100. And like I said, I'm not using any software on my computer to take audio. Some people take audio straight into their computer when they're doing live broadcasting and stuff like that. I decided not to go that route. I'm doing everything direct. I have much more control over the sound quality, the audio, and post-production. So I decided to set up my show and my vlogcast to do it this way. So my mic runs into here, and this is what I use to capture the audio. I have a 4 gigabyte SD card in there. And then towards the bottom, this is where the mic is actually being plugged in my left channel, okay? In my right channel, I have this cord, and this cord plugs into my iPhone. You can see that this is 8mm. I think it's 8mm, and just plugs right into this little dongle that you can get from Apple. So you plug that in, plug this in, and so while I'm filming, look at my wife back there, just Instagramming it up. Hi. While I'm filming on there, that's capturing my video. My iPhone is plugged into here, and when I have to take in callers, it will go into the right channel. And then out of the DR40 is a line, and that goes to my headphones. And so the only reason I'm wearing headphones when I record this is because I cannot hear the audio coming out of my cell phone because it's plugged in. And so I need to use headphones, and plug it into the Tascam so I can hear not only my mic and myself talking, but also the person talking. And so I wanted to turn this on real quick and show you guys some settings. If you are using a DR40 or a Tascam, show you a few settings that will really, really help you out. All right, so I record because I'm using 2 channels, and sometimes I'm not using this cell phone channel. I am using another microphone. So I'll have another XLR, like when my wife films with me, we'll have 2 microphones. And so my XLR cable will be in the left, her XLR cable will be in the right. So right now I just have a cell phone in there. So because we have 2 channels and it's not just me talking, you want to check your record settings. And so I have my record settings on stereo, and then I have the source as external independent, meaning I'm using external channels and I want them to be recorded independently. I want independent, I want to be able to manipulate these independently in the software. And I'll get to that in a minute. And so I have the record mode, that's what it's set to. And then my tracks, I have the left channel set to, well, it's supposed to be set to 70, but I'll have it set to 70. And then my second channel, my right channel is set to, well, it's 90, but it should be 70. And then, yeah, those are basically my record settings. I have it in 10-minute increments. I have every 10 minutes, it starts a new soundbite, just in case there's any sort of failures in the recording. At least I didn't lose everything or the entire show. So at least I know every 10 minutes I'm safe, and I have 10 minutes worth of recording and audio recording. And so if the show's 30 minutes, it'll spit out 3 10-minute clips. And then you can also do something where you can record, there's a setting here called dual. And so dual recording is where you can record these, you can basically record the same track you're recording, but at a different audio level. So let me tell you why that would even matter. Let's say you're filming, let's say, you know, me and Rex, my friend Rex, we do podcasts together sometimes. Let's say we're at Ride the Bull, for example, and we're outside and we're trying to film, and the levels look good, you know, the levels look good right here, but it's just super loud, and we definitely don't have time to redo the recording, and we don't want to, you know, record audio that's not going to work out in the end, which really, really suck. So what I have going on here, if I do record in dual, sorry, let me get out of this. If I do record in dual, it will record in the input levels that I've selected, but then it will also record the same tracks at -10 decibels, which means it will be quieter. And so you can change this, obviously, to what you want. I have mine set at -10. So let's say my wife is over there, she's sitting there, and, you know, she's yelling and all that kind of stuff. And she's ruining my levels on my mic that were set perfectly, but yet she's yelling, and now I can't use that clip because it's peaking over here. Well, if I'm recording in dual and I have it set to -10 decibels, well, at least I know I have a backup track. Even though she's screaming, I have a backup track that I can plug in that was recorded at a lower volume. So the audio won't be distorted, and it won't, at least you have some sort of safe keep. Is that the right word, safe keep? At least you have some sort of backup. And so that's this. That's my setup for this. And then all my all my editing is done on my Mac, and I use Final Cut Pro 10, all right? Let me show you guys something real quick. I want to put this phone down and show you how to split tracks. Alrighty guys, so what I've done right now is I've taken an audio source that we just recorded and I have put it into Final Cut Pro. And so let me show you what happens when you record an external independent. So I have a phone call, I have a caller, her name is Miss Lisa, and she's on this show with me. That entered, and so, but the problem is that I'll have to up her volumes and her levels, but if I do that with just one track, I'll be uploading both levels at the same time, which doesn't help me at all. It'll just raise the volume of the entire track. And so if you record an external independent, you can go on over here and you switch it to dual mono. Excuse the messy screen, I gotta clean that. And then you go to the clip, you can actually expand audio components, and now you'll see two clips here. You will see, if I zoom out, this is me talking right here. /contact. You can ask me any question there. But then when we get over here, you can see that we now have somebody who's entered the conversation.
Launch. It was lost. It went about 6.
And so that's Miss Lisa talking right there. I hope that gives you guys a little bit of a few tips on how to maybe get an idea on how to maybe piece your situation together and how you want to do podcasts. But I wanted to run you through mine. I don't even have the best of equipment, but I would say that my equipment is pretty good. It does its job. A lot of it's older equipment, like that camera, 5 years old. This, 5 years old. My Tascam. These lights were like $70 a piece on Amazon. You don't have to use Beats by Dre. I just already had these because this was a birthday present for my wife about 3 years ago. This microphone was $100. This stand was $10. I already had my computer that I do most of my editing on, and you don't have to use Final Cut Pro, and you don't even have to use a Mac, but that's just what I have already. So when I think about the expense, you could do all of this and have this exact same setup, minus this computer and minus these headphones, because you don't need these headphones. You could literally use earbuds. You could get into this for, I don't know, $500, this setup, or less. And then once you get going and you want a second mic, you can get a second mic and a second stand. But honestly, if you want to start a podcast, here's all you need. All you need is a video source, a way to capture audio, which for me it's this, but there are computer programs where you can plug a USB and use it as a MIDI controller. You plug your computer into there, you can do it that way. You need an audio source. You can literally use your headphones on your cell phone and use the voice recorder app on your cell phone, whether you're using Android or Apple. You need an audio source, a video source, and then some way to piece it together, which would be a computer, and just find a system that you can overlay layers. And that's all you need. That's really all you need. So guys, I hope this helps somebody out. My only tip to those who are looking to get into doing this is the same tip I give for every other thing. Don't not do something because you don't have the equipment that you think you need to do it. Just see what you got, try doing it, because a lot of times you'll find this. You'll find you didn't even want to do it and it wasn't even a hobby you liked. Think about how many things you've started and invested money in and then don't do now. And so my suggestion for podcasts is don't go investing a ton of money in something that you haven't already proven you're going to do and stick with, because you might start doing it and then you find out, dang, I don't like this, or dang, I do like this and I'm going to stick with this. So let me go ahead and buy a mic. Let me go ahead and buy it, and then do it that way. So guys, hope this video helped somebody or at least sparked somebody's interest or helped you out somehow. If you need any more questions asked for technical things like on Tascams, editing files, leave a comment in this video on YouTube or whatever. Shoot me a message and I'll be happy to help you out. See ya.